Hello and welcome. My name is Justin. I want to thank you for joining me in another video of my Learn to Play D&D series. In this series, I attempt to help new players or potential new players go from deciding they first want to play the game all the way to their very first combat encounter in-game. In this section of videos, we're actually going to be going through creating our own character. I'm going to take it step by step and explain maybe little tips and tricks throughout on how to decide on which classes, races, backgrounds, equipment, all of that that you would like to add to your character. And in this video, we're going to be going over the classes. Now, in the book, they do distinguish between the levels of complexity of each character, and it's a pretty good system of understanding how difficult a class is to play. But for me, I'm going to do something a little different and suggest different classes based on their level of forethought necessary, because different classes require different base levels of thought before even using any of the abilities, traits, and things like that you're given in these classes. Now, this is going to be separated into low, medium, and high levels of forethought. And this is all based on these classes at level 1. So we're going to start with low levels of forethought, which would be your fighter, your rogue, your barbarian, and your monk. Now, these 4 classes are your typical fighting classes, right? So you've got your fighter and your barbarian, which are the easiest of the 4 classes to really jump into. You have your fighter, which is your typical weapon and armor master. You will have access to most, if not all, of the armors, most, if not all, of the weapons, as well as moving forward in levels, have access to multiple attacks in the same turn. It's your hack and slash class, your beginner's intro into combat specialist, I guess you could say. Then you have your barbarian, which is your tanky yet high DPS, high damage dealing class. This is one of the highest constitution classes. It has one of the largest hit die of any of the classes, and it has access to some of the heaviest damage dealing weapons in the game. Then you have your rogue, which is your sneak, your stealth specialist. This is the class that you would choose if you want to be slippery, moving around the battlefield. If you want to slip in and out of a stealthy situation with relative ease, this would be the class that you would go for. You can even use this class as a means of slipping in and out of combat easily, as you have ease of access to things like disengage, which allows you to slip out of combat without the possibility of being hurt. Then you have your monk, your hand-to-hand combat specialist. This is the class of the low damage per hit, but high amount of hits and high utility with those hits. The higher levels you gain in monk, you gain abilities that allow you to knock back people with your punches, to knock them down, to add debuffs, things like that through simply your fists. But each of these 4 classes requires a pretty low level of forethought, relatively speaking, to the rest of them, which makes them pretty easy of access to beginner players. It's mainly hit things hard, hit things a lot, and maybe sneak around a little bit. That's typically what these 4 classes fall into. Next, we go to the medium classes, which would be your paladin, your bard, and your ranger. Now, your paladin has many options for weapons. If I'm not mistaken, they have simple and martial weapons, which is most of the weapons similar to the fighter. They have access to a small amount of spells, which is cool. A lot of them being buff spells to your attacks. Some of them being buff spells to your party members. Some of the traits you get allow you to heal yourself or party members as well. And you also do require a minimum knowledge of some of the Forgotten Realms gods, or even just the deities in your character setting, the world setting. which makes using the paladin a little bit more heavy on forethought rather than the previous 4 classes, as you need to know that, maybe I need to think about getting around to healing this player, or maybe I should buff my weapon before I make this next attack, things like that. Then you have your bard. This is the jack of all traits, which I believe they even have a trait in that class called jack of all. But this is your, they have access to a pretty high amount of spells, a pretty large amount of spells actually. They gain a pretty decent amount of spell slots, but they also have access to a lot of weapons and a lot of buffing abilities. When you think about like bardic inspiration, this is your, if you're interested in all facets of D&D but aren't sure exactly which one you want to nail in, go for your bard. This will give you the highest level of movement between the different types of abilities you can use in D&D. But it'll also give you the ability to zero in on a specific side of D&D that you're enjoying. So if you're not sure what you want to do in terms of playing your character, you might want to go with a bard. Then there's your ranger, which also has access to spells and weapons. But they have more access to ranged weapons. So if you're wanting to kind of stay on the outside of combat but also deal some damage, definitely go for this class. They're a little more squishy than, of course, say the barbarian or the paladin. The paladin, actually, I believe, is one of the heaviest tanks in the game. The ranger also has access to a subclass that allows you to have animal companions. So if you're looking for an animal friend moving through the game, you might want to try and look at the ranger. So yeah, those are your medium complexity characters, which also just happen to fall into the category of all of the half casters, which essentially means those who have half magic, half weapon abilities, but don't really specialize in either of the two. Next, we're going to move into our high complexity classes, which just so happen to be all of our full casters: the cleric, the wizard, the druid, the sorcerer, and the warlock. The main reason, in my opinion, why these are high levels of forethought characters or classes is because of their just insane access to spells. The spells that you can use in these 5 classes range from full-on like AoE healing spells that can heal for multiple dice worth of damage. You have access to wizard spells that can literally just bring a celestial mansion out of nowhere up in front of you, and you can just live out of it for a while. You have your druid, which has wild shape starting at level 2, and if your DM allows you to just choose whatever you want from the list of beasts that there is in the game, the list to choose from can be up in the hundreds. It's pretty absurd. But so you have to really think about what you're wanting to do with these classes. You have so we're going to start with your cleric. That's your healer, typically. They have the highest access to healing spells as well as other buffing spells. So if you're wanting to play a support class, go for the cleric. The wizard is the complex character of D&D. This is the class that you have to not only find and learn your spells throughout the game, but you also have to be able to understand some of the most complex spells in the game, such as, like I said, the mansion. You can literally just create your own mansion out of thin air. I believe there's a couple of spells that allow you to do this, and you can just design it however you want. There's pretty insane spells, but they're also very squishy. They're very easy to take down. The druid, again, that's your this is your wild character, your turn into an owl bear and stomp your enemy out kind of character. Then you have the sorcerer. These are the magic wielders that are born with their magic. They basically are just given their magic as you progress through the game. They have sorcery points, which give them abilities in a list called meta magic. Which again makes them a lot more complex of a character to play. They're one of the high complexity characters if you look in the DMG, or not the DMG, the player's handbook. but they also have the ability to cast metamagic, which essentially allows you to do different things like regain spell slots in the middle of combat, cast spells secretively without setting off alarms or anything, without anyone really noticing, things like that. Then there's your Warlock. Your Warlock is your given magic through deities or demons or devils, things like that. This is your character that has made a pact with some sort of higher being that has given them their magic for some cost, typically. You have high access to spells, requires a pretty deep understanding of Forgotten Realms lore, or even just lore in whatever setting that you're playing in. This character requires a lot of understanding, and it's also it's a really good character for a really good class for people who want to play a deep, rich, backstoried character. Granted, these all have the ability to do that, but the Warlock really gives you some interesting points to start with. So yeah, that would be my suggestions on how to choose between the different classes. You have your low levels of Forethought in your Fighter, your Rogue, your Barbarian, and Monk. You have your medium Forethought in Paladin, Bard, and Ranger. And then high levels of Forethought with Cleric, Wizard, Druid, Sorcerer, and Warlock. So now we're going to jump over into the character builder, and we're going to actually start building this character. Now, I'm going to choose the easiest class to start off with for most players, which is going to be the Fighter. Now, this is the list you're going to see on D&D Beyond's website, which is pretty much Wizards of the Coast's main website host for online D&D play. You can build characters, you can have multiple characters, you can join campaigns, you can make campaigns, you can have all of your books in one place if you really want to have them online. This is your one-stop shop. This is dndbeyond.com for anything having to do with actual SRD, Wizards of the Coast D&D stuff. So the character we're going to be making is going to be a fighter. I'm going to go ahead and add this class to my character sheet. And in the next video, we're going to be going over the traits and how traits work in terms of each class and each character. So go ahead and keep an eye out for that video for me, please. And if you like this video, please hit the like and or subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.